All right,
Okay.
folks. I
Yes,
see
I
we're going
got
to
it.
kick. All right, good. Hello, folks. We're just getting started. It looks like people are on time, and that's great. Um, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jesse Alexander, WB2IFS. I am I'm basically leading this class. Really glad to have you all here. We're very fortunate tonight. We're going to have our first speaker of our first cohort, for this ham radio class. This is like really cool. We're going to have Pat Nelson, and I found out about Pat through the On the Air magazine, and I was like, she's the perfect person, to get started. We're going to find out all kinds of stuff about her. It says here she's earned a degree, a Bachelor of Science degree in management and Masters of Science in Community Health and Healthcare Administration from Long Island, as they used to say, in New York. And
They
she
still
brings
do.
still do, Long Island. And she brings experience from the academic, health, legal, and not-for-profit fields. She's worked in various groups on diversity issues, education, information technology, and healthcare. She became involved with the Fresh Air Radio, KFAI, a community radio station in Minneapolis. Pat hosted several shows on the air and really liked broadcasting, so much so that she became a trainer to do board certification training at the station, which is 90% of volunteer based. That's really cool. Yeah. And one of her students who became her dear friend and co-trainer with her, Mike Stapp, KE0QXD, piqued her interest in ham radio. Excellent. Good job. Good job, Mike. First licensed in 2018, she holds the highest amateur radio certification, Amateur Extra. Her amateur radio interests include digital operations, Echolink and Peanut. And folks, we're going to be talking about Echolink and Peanut, definitely. And serving as amateur radio volunteer examiner through the Aurora Amateur Radio Group, ARG. Pat is currently serving as a member of the VE board of the ARG and is a member of the American Radio Relay League, so am I, and a lifetime member of, Mike, I'm not a lifetime member, but I'm a member, Amateur Radio Association, and she's the owner and principal of Nelson Works, LLC, partnering with individuals and small home businesses and in the how-tos of information technology. She's looking forward to reaching wider still. And there's her contact information. So Pat, take it away. What's your secret sauce? How'd you get started?
Well, good evening, everybody. My secret sauce is just in my phrase, reach wider still. And I've always been curious. And one of the tales, there's always family tales. And my family tale is that my father, and we're talking many, many moons ago, got one of the first transistor radios ever. And my curiosity was, boy, does this play underwater? I really wonder. And it was from a good place. And it wasn't like, destruction, but, as everybody's probably laughing and carrying on, yeah, it fizzed out. And I told my dad, and he was not angry, but he wasn't pleased either. So he took it back to the store and he told the gentleman what happened. His daughter was curious and the whole thing. And he did not expect to get the radio back. That was it. Again, we're talking many moons ago. So what the gentleman did, he was very kind. He says, listen, I'll give you another radio, but you have to promise me that she will never get her hands on this radio ever again.
Wow.
So I didn't. But I've always been curious about things and how things are put together. And that really started my interest just generally. And someone told me many years later that oh, you have a good voice for radio.
Mm.
Usually it's that joke, you have a good face for radio. But no, it was really a good voice for radio. And when I moved, I was born in, you heard Long Island and all that. I was born in Brooklyn, New York. I moved to Minneapolis, Minnesota, it's almost 29 years now. And to say Minneapolis is different from New York is an understatement, but in a wonderful way, because I don't think I would have been able to access public radio and community radio as I did in at KFAI. And so I started out, I met a friend of a friend who had a show on, and she said, why don't you come and co-produce the show? I'm like, okay. So I did that and I loved it. Then I became co-producer and then producer, then performer, then executive producer, then board member at KFAI, and then an instructor. So, and that was over about 10 years. And then I met Mike Stack. He was a student of mine. Of course, he excelled. But he always told me about his interest in amateur radio. And I was like, yeah, all right. That's good. That's great. It's wonderful and nice you have that. But it was like, okay, what am I going to do with ham radio? What is it for me about ham radio? It was very nice. Mm-hmm. And I knew that. And what he did every year, he would go to Honduras and help out the medical team in Honduras.
Oh,
there.
Wow.
Every year, February, he's gone. He's gone. And then, and then comes back with all these experiences. So
was that someone talking?
Megan, I think it popped up for a minute.
Okay, I think I see who that is. Okay, it looks like they've muted. And let's just see.
And I'm just wondering, do I get to see everybody? I know everybody gets to see me.
Are you all willing to?
Or at least your photo.
Yeah,
okay.
Okay.
Right. Oh, great. I'm so happy. Yay. Hello. That's okay, Sullivan. That is okay. But I get to see you guys. Uh-oh.
Is there a chat?
Okay.
You okay? Is everybody still there? Are we still with me?
I am. It's still frozen though, but I don't know on which end. So I mean, we may have to, just because of bandwidth, at least I see faces, and that's really great. Yeah. So if you want to mute your cameras, like to cut down the bandwidth, the video, that'll be fine. And
looks like we're okay now.
Okay, good. Yeah. All right, now I see people's heads. Okay, all great. Right, good. And so what happened was that many years later, my partner Kim said to me, what do we do if we lose power? What do we do if we can't get anybody? What do we do if we can't get phones? And what do we do? And I'm like, ding, ding, ding. And so I started on my trek, and Mike was overjoyed, jumping up and down. And he does not live that far from me. So he was like, oh, let's get the books. Let's get the study. Let's get to this. No, slow down. I'm okay. So I got my technician license and I went, funny, I live in Minneapolis, which is one of the bigger cities in Minnesota, but they didn't have a testing site. So I had to go no, that was weird. So I had to go 20 minutes out of my way to Bloomington. And of course, it was all guys of a certain range of diversity. I'll leave it at that.
Tracking.
They were I came inside, they're like, ma'am, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm here to take my technician exam. Oh, okay. So I took my exam, passed it. Then they asked me, did I want to go for my general? I'm like, I didn't study for my general. Oh gosh, no. And so I went in, got the tech, went to my computer, got on Echolink because I didn't get my handheld radio. I didn't get I have an HF radio as well, which Mike is dying to put together in the spring.
Oh, cool.
So, and Echolink, we'll be talking about that, is basically digital based and you run it all from your computer, but the protocols are the same. The addressing is the same. And everything is the same, except you're just doing it via computer. And some people do it by their smartphone or tablet, which is awesome. And because I'm an instructor by trade, I said, I really want to be able to give the exams. And of course, you cannot give the exam unless you go through the general and then amateur extra and sign up with an organization that does allow you to give exams. So I passed my general and they said, you want to take your extra too? No. Because while yes, if you, and I know you all will be studying to get your technician exam. Am I correct?
Yes.
Mr. Alexander, am I right on that? So when you get your technician, you can, right now with FCC ruling, you can take all 3 exams. Technician, general, amateur, extra. You can't take them at the same sitting with no extra charges. And that is called 0 to hero for obvious reasons. And technician is 35 questions, general is 35 questions, and amateur extra is 50 questions, because basically the FCC wants to know, can you, as a person with a license, handle yourself properly? Which means you don't do any advertising on amateur radio. You can talk to one another. You can give out information like emergency services and things like that to get services to where they're needed, which right now they're probably going on in the West very much.
Yeah,
I heard
California.
from my friends in California. They're doing that. I have a friend of mine, she is an emergency comm person, and she's just, this is her happy spot, but unfortunately her happy spot, because she loves doing radio and she loves helping people, but under these circumstances. And let me tell you, she got her amateur extra last year at the age of 81.
Wow. 80. Wow. 81. Wow.
And so, you know, it is a lifetime study. So you're embarking on a lifetime of learning, but in a way that's fun. And to me, and I guess, and Mr. Alexander will probably say that too. So I'm going to stop here. Do you have any questions or comments for me?
Please, folks, come off mute if you've got questions.
None?
I mean, I have a question. Is there
Yes.
a reason you didn't just take the general exam for fun? Like, if you're sitting there and you can just try it, like, is there any downside to just doing that and just trying for the heck of it?
Not at all.
Not at all.
And that's a great question, Erin. For me, and it was my thought that because I prepared so heavily for my technician exam, I just didn't feel I had enough information for the general. But that was my thought. If I knew then what I knew now, I would have just taken all 3. And just to try it out and to see what I know and to see what I do. Because at least I will have had my technician, and then I would have earned the other 1 or 2. So I wouldn't have to go back. But absolutely great question. Go for it. If you can do it, go for it.
Totally agree.
And What it is, though, which I also now know, is that basically half of the general is what you've covered it on technician. You really have that half. So you have at least a 50+% chance of passing your general.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. To be clear, folks, the test is multiple choice.
Absolutely.
It's all multiple choice. So there's if you know how to take multiple choice exams, you can do pretty good. And the way I look at it is, and when you are tested, we're going to work with Greater Los Angeles. We're going to work with GLARG, the Greater Los Angeles, because what they do is if you have a student ID, they waive the fees for testing, which is totally cool. And I've already been talking with them, and they're on board. They test large numbers of people at once. So they were like, oh, 9 people? I think we can handle that. Yeah, no problem.
Have you talked to Art?
Not yet. No, I'll talk with him.
He's GLARG, and he could just set it up for you guys.
Oh, great.
And he's also Mike, so that's why I was wondering.
Who's his name again? What was his name again?
Art, A-R-T, Clemens, C-L-E-M-E-N-S. And he's a session manager for GLARG. So
I didn't know that.
Absolutely set it up. Matter of fact, for Mike, he's been trying to get a specific day exam, or not a specific day, but a specific one for Mike members. But in this case, of course, you have your students do that.
All right, I'll look up Art in the book. For those of you who don't know, OMIC stands for, let's see, Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, and Kentucky. It is the oldest African-American centered organization of amateur radio operators to be around. I joined back in '75, stuff like that. I've been a member off and on since then. So, all right, I'll check out Art Clemens. And because I've been talking with someone else, I found GLARG has a presence on Discord. So I found them on Discord, and I'm speaking with someone else, and I don't remember her name at this point right now, and I don't want to bring up Discord because it'll interrupt us. But I'll reach out to Art. Thank you for that. That's great.
Please do.
Will do.
Okay. Any other questions, concerns? Belle, you look like you're about to do something. No? just good.
Yeah.
Marianne, Nahan, Kimberly? Okay.
Yeah. Is there anything you learned while you were obtaining your ham radio license that you didn't expect to learn that you did?
Because my interest is in IT, I figured I would learn that kind of basic, but I got to appreciate electronics just in general much, much more, and how sound and light and other things vibrate throughout all of the world and all over the world. And I really got to appreciate that more because I was actually living it and doing it and having to know how they work. So yes, I got that very clearly, and I'm still getting it. It's always a process.
Okay. Let's see, anything. I think I had a few questions. Let's see. And of course I wrote them down, but
and you don't know how much it pleases me to have such a group on YLs and OMs. And he'll explain that to you later.
Yeah. Well, so I will explain that later. We're actually going to play around with YL used to mean young lady, and well, still does, and OM used to mean old man. But we're going to change these things, right? So I came up with an idea, and I was going to run it by you all. I think we should start using things like OF, old friend, or Or another one I came up with was New Friend for new people who are just joining ham radio, right? Right, because we need people have different gender and gender
Sure.
expressions. And so, it's time for amateur radio to update itself, and keep up with the times and reality. And so I was just playing with that idea. There's a paper that I think I have slipped into one of the lessons that talks about ham radio. It's actually a research paper about ham radio and gender bias.
Oh, is
And
that by, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I don't know I don't have the author, but I think it's pretty good. It's on JSTOR. I found it on
Mhm.
JSTOR, and I'm that. And for the folks here, students, that is in the Linktree list that I have, and it's under amateur radio pedagogy. And that I should have right here. I'm happy to share that with everyone.
And
So I will.
yeah. And to say that discrimination, it does exist and it's real. And that's in every bit of it, but, and this is the but, with everything in life, you present yourself as who you are in your totality. And if people don't want to accept it, you don't have to be that. You can battle if you want, or you can say, hey, I'll get my own group, or I'll go somewhere else, or I'll do that. Because one of the things is that you will find folks in the same arena as trying as you are, and especially on Discord. I mean, Discord is fantastic for that. I started out as being a member of the American Radio League, the ARRL.
Right.
And then I was looking around, I said, is there any place for a person like me? Because my friend Mike is not like me at all. And I said, there's got to be a place for me somewhere. I mean, amateur. Okay, and I'm gonna throw out a question right here to you guys and gals and folks. How many ham radio folks do you think there are in the United States?
That's a good one.
Like around 100,000 or something.
Oh, okay. Bell, 200,000. And who was that on the mic? Kimberly, 150,000. Aaron, 50.
I would say 25,000.
25,000.
25,000.
Mr. Alexander, we have got to do better.
We do.
We really do.
I don't really know what the
It
number
is
is.
750,000.
Really? Wow.
750,000. Worldwide, it's closer to 1,200,000.
Wow.
So the United States has the majority of people who are licensed for ham
didn't know that.
radio. And it is
750,000.
growing. Yeah, 750,000. And it's really growing. And possibly because of the reasons that my partner said to me. How do you contact others if you're in trouble, or just to talk with people? And my first contact was a person in Canada. My second contact was a person in England.
Wow.
And of course, my friend Mike was very mad because you couldn't even do it around the corner and you went around the world. But that was it. But talking about organizations and places and folks, my first organization was Oh Mike in that way. I spoke to someone there and we kept talking back and forth. And the gentleman said, you are aware that this is an African American organization.
That's funny.
And I said, I am African American. He was like, oh, oh. Oh, and then he was just like, what do you need? Where are you now? You have your amateur yet? You know, and
That's
just,
funny.
and just went on. And then the second organization I looked up was RARA, rah, literally. And that's the LGBTQ ham organization. And it took me a while to get through because what's reality out there, it's like, you know, are you in for trolling? What you're in for? And then I was
Oh,
serious, and they didn't believe I was serious. And finally I met up with someone and we talked, and they're like, oh yes, fine, it's no problem.
wow.
And Facebook has a lot of groups online as well. Oh, Mike is online. I have to tell you about Aurora, and Rara is online, and there is the LGBTQ radio club.
Oh,
So there are a lot of groups, and sometimes you got to do a little digging, but they're there. And the more you reach wider still, the more information you find out.
okay, great.
It's really something about that. And thank you, Mr. Alexander, for putting it
Yep.
up. How did I find out about Aurora? It was not that long ago that most of the tests, and today a majority of taking the tests are in person, but primarily because of COVID, there had to be a different way of taking the tests. And it also turned out that people in certain areas could not take the tests because of distance, because of timing. There is a friend of mine, and he's been a ham as long as I've been alive, which is a long time. He told me that he had to go to the FCC building in his town and to take the exam in front of commissioners or representatives of commissioners, and that's kind of way off. But anyway, so COVID came in and changed the thing, so we became more looking for, can we do remotes? Can we do online exams? Can we, you know, we have the computer, we have Zoom, we have a whole lot of things. So what happened was I was looking to take my extra. I did not want to take it in person by that time. And I looked on the internet and I found the Aurora Amateur Radio Group. They're based in Alaska, believe it or not. That is home base. And they were giving online exams, and I got a call. Oh, and Mr. Alexander put up the VE program, but it's aarg.club for overall.
Okay.
Yeah, the VE program is important too, but we'll just, and they also have a Discord and for new hams. So when the folks on here get their license, they're free to absolutely join the Discord if they don't know, you know, if they want to be part of it. And they actually have members online to answer any questions that you may have. But
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, so I said, well, I'm looking to take my extra, and I filled out the paperwork online, and that was it. And then 5 minutes later, I got a phone call.
Huh.
Hi, I'm from Aurora, and I just want to make sure you have everything ready for your test. I'm like, who does that?
That's
Who does
great.
that? And I took my test my first time. I took it 2 times. First time I did not even close. And then they said to me, you could try again. Here are some resources. Take a look. You did well, but you know, you need to do better. So it was very much encouraged. And they
That
said,
is
you
good.
and you have your general, so you can become a volunteer examiner, but only for technician. And I said, what? Yeah, you could work with us and become a volunteer. Work with technician. I said, okay. And what do I have to do? Well, you have to get licensed through, because it's a whole different setup to become a volunteer examiner. And I said to them, I had my license already, and I had to be a volunteer examiner. They didn't believe me. So I sent the certification right away. I faxed it to them. And I've been with Aurora ever since. And literally, it seemed like they've been around a long time. But in December, they just celebrated their 2nd anniversary.
Oh, wow. So they're new.
And they're brand
Okay.
new, well, newer. And
Newer.
their mission is to serve the underserved. That's
That is
the
great.
mission. And so I've been trying to get ARC with Omike and some other people so that we can serve the underserved even more.
That's great.
So yeah, that's one of the things that we've been into. But anyway, have you gone into, Mr. Alexander, have you gone into the phonetic alphabet yet?
Not yet. That's on the
Okay.
path. That's on the path.
Okay, I don't want to give too much away,
Yeah.
but I will explain why. And as you see with both Mr. Alexander and myself, we have our call signs, our call letters.
Yep.
And those are given to you by the FCC. And as you, let's say you get your technician, and then you get your general, and you get your extra, you may not like your call sign. You can get what is called a vanity call sign. And of course, it's an extra charge, but some people love it because it's easier, it's less letters, it's, and it's also yours. It's personally yours. I decided to keep mine, and I'll tell you why. And it was, of course, anybody who helps you is called an Elmer. So my Elmer, my friend Mike, said, QXD, you want to keep that? You want to keep that? I said, yes, I like it a lot. I don't know why it's different. But he figured out, he said, oh, I got it. I know why you like it, because QXD is quite an extraordinary Dane.
Okay.
So it's my name, my call sign. And most people are like, oh yeah, hi Pat, how are you? They automatically know. So
Yeah, just for the class, call signs, all licensed radio stations have call signs.
yes, absolutely.
Amateur radio license, all amateur radio operators also have call signs. So you've heard people talk about WABC and WCBS. All of those entities are licensed by the FCC, and they have call sign. All the call signs in the United States begin with a W or a K and A. Okay, so I have a neighbor around here. His call sign is Alpha Alpha 3 November November, which is the phonics that Pat was referring to before. So it's AA3NN. And I like his call sign because in Morse code, it kind of swings. It's got a beat, da 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 da. I mean,
and that
I think it's got a beat. I like the way it sounds. So that's his call sign.
And that's my next mission. You brought it up. When I go to meetings with AERG, there are many people that are familiar with CW, also known as Morse code. Morse code was necessary to become an amateur radio person, to become a ham. But in 2007, the FCC said, no, you don't need it. And it's an article, and I think you put it up, Mr. Alexander, somewhere else, called You Can't Use Twitter? Morse code is back.
Exactly right. Well, in true fashion, right? When you tell people they don't have to do it, right? There are more people
like
doing it now than they ever did before. It's like, it's hilarious.
And another thing, if you wanted to go to another country, and you wanted to use their auspices as a ham, you do have to know Morse code
Mm.
for them to use it.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, to get like a temporary license, if you want to be there, to do this, it's on the test too. It's called CEBT, CEBT. But anyway, yeah, and they're saying, if you want your licensure there, you do have to know Morse code. You don't have to know it. I think the minimum is 5 words, or 5 words per minute.
Okay.
And so many people know 12 and 20 and 25. And again, on Facebook, there's a slow Morse code. There's different groups that you can practice with. Mike has a net, an actual net that once you get licensed, you can listen to. And you could just hang out and listen. You don't have to participate. But of course, the learning comes when you participate. So I have a bet with a couple of people in my club in Alaska that, you got to do CW at some point. So anyway.
Yeah.
And the phonetics, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I was just going to say quickly, there is a class that I've added to, it's not required for your license, but I've added a class for you all to learn Morse code. So I'm just letting you know, or CW, so that you learn that. I wasn't aware about this situation where you go out of the country to get reciprocal license. I didn't know you had to have code. It's something that's new to me. That's good. Good. Thanks, Pat. That's great information.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah.
And
That's
what's nice about knowing about this, you'll get to know that different countries have different ways of approaching ham licensure. And I asked a friend of mine who definitely is into that, what's the toughest place to get your license? If you were getting your license, what's the toughest place?
Huh.
And he said Russia.
Really?
And I said, okay, tell me why. Well, yeah, it's 100 questions. And you have to build a radio. And you have to do 12, I think it's 12 words per minute minimum Morse.
Wow.
And that's just basic. That would
Wow.
be like equivalent, it's equivalent to beyond amateur, but amateur extra. But this is just basic knowledge.
Yeah. Huh.
And Canada is not that far, but I mean, it's a different test. It's closer to the American test, but it's also, you do have to pass a Morse code test, but it's relatively easy to pass. But
I see a hand up. Is that Leonie?
Yeah, Leonie.
hi, Leonie.
Hi. I was just wondering, why do you need to have a license to manage a radio?
It's really because, good question, and it is. Really, it's because you are using the airwaves. Like Mr. Alexander said, any entity that uses the airwaves to communicate must know what they're doing, and it must be certified by a government agency, which is the Federal Communications Commission. So they have to, so each call sign is a station, and it's right about that. Each person may have a call sign, but the call sign is the station. Like WABC, CCO, W and K, and all that. So it is required. Otherwise, you will be in contempt of the FCC. And I have heard fines $10,000 and above. I have also heard that if one has the license, it will be taken away permanently. You cannot get it back.
Yep.
So it's really critical. And there's a reason why there are so many stringent rules, and that you are tested to understand your knowledge. This does not mean that you're going to keep everything in your head at all times, but at least you know what the basics are. You can always research what they are, and it's called Part 97, which you'll hear a lot in the process. Absolutely. Part 97, those are the rules of the road, basically, as far as the FCC goes. So did that cover your question?
Yes, thank you. That's actually super interesting.
Yeah.
Excellent. The only thing I would add is the way I look at it is like this. The spectrum is a shared resource.
Yes.
All human beings on this planet share the use of the spectrum. So being that we're somewhat smart, human beings have established certain government entities that manage who gets access to what parts of the spectrum for different purposes.
Mhm.
And we've made international agreements to the UN and through other organizations about how to manage this natural resource. It's actually a natural resource.
Yes.
And just like any other natural resource, there's pollution. There are people who get on there. There's some things that are mistakes. Some groups, some radios interfere with other radios when they're not supposed
Right.
to, and that kind of thing. And we're going to have more about that in, I think it's lesson number 3, week number 3.
Mhm.
We're going to have Dr. Chris Dupuis, who's from the National Radio Astronomy Observatory, who is actually the spectrum manager for the National Radio Astronomy
Wow.
organization. He's going to come in and he's going to have, let's see if I can show this in my somewhat messy office. I don't, if you can see that poster way up there. There is a poster, and I'll share the link to the poster.
Uh-huh.
I got a freebie poster.
Okay.
You all have this poster in your box. It shows all the different services. Ham radio is one of the services. There are a whole bunch of services that use the spectrum, and this chart shows the different services. So if you look in your boxes, you should see that it's probably rolled up or folded, and that chart shows you the frequency allocations for the United States. And you'll see everything in there,
Mhm.
including microwave ovens. You'll
Yes.
see Wi-Fi up there. You'll see military radio and all that kind of stuff. So, oh, you don't have the poster. All right, thanks. Let me check on that. I'll check with Izzy on that. Thank you for that. And that was, let me just stop right now and ask, because I got one. I think Logan says he doesn't have one. They don't have one. Did everyone get the poster yet? Oh, you have one? Okay. All right. So I'll check on that. My apologies, Logan. I'll make sure that you get one. So that's
Is
basically, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, is that available electronically?
It is. It's available
Okay.
electronically, but it's one of these things. There's so much data on
I
this thing.
know.
You
Yeah.
gotta like, I like, personally, I like having the poster in my office. I
Oh,
like
sure.
having it.
It's like da-da, right there.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And I could turn around and say, it's like, you are here. You know, that's what I like about it. But it is available electronically. And you know what? I'll make sure that I've provided a link. Um, uh, I'll check on the poster for Logan though, because we've got lots of them. So I'll make sure. Go ahead, Pat. Were you going to say something?
No, I was just remarking. I think it was an icon poster, and you'll explore like how many companies actually do make items and radios specifically for the amateur radio service. And ICOM is one of them, and Biofeng is another, and Yaesu. And one of the things that hams love to do, and Mr. Alexander will talk about this too, is rag chew, which means
Oh yeah.
talk with one another. And one of the rag chewingest things is like, what radio do you have, and how, what about repeaters and all that. And so it could get really involved. And I've been a member of different organizations like for the past 5 years, and not a day goes by that I don't hear from one of the radio companies, or I don't hear from, and that's a good way to connect, because even though it's one of the slower growing, the technology is growing. Because not that long ago, there were no digital systems available. And now you have like at least 20, 25 of them on this, with Aurora, I was able to see WinLink
Oh, yeah.
sending emails without being connected to the internet. That just thrills me to no end. And that's through amateur ham/ham radio.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of things going on. So I'm going to stop to give you a chance to questions, and Mr. Alexander's putting up a lot of information.
Yeah, I
lot of it.
found the PDF of the spectrum frequency allocations.
Mhm.
Let me just check. I think everyone, what I'll do is I'll check after the meeting and just make sure everyone has one. And Logan, I'll make sure you get one. In the interim, you can use the PDF that I just put up. You're going to have to magnify it. it's pretty fine, but you get to, I like this chart because you see how all this is a result of international agreements.
Mhm.
You're going to see that some frequencies we share with different services, like Wi-Fi actually overlaps. And yeah, you're welcome, Logan. Wi-Fi actually overlaps the ham bands.
Mhm.
So I have some doctored Wi-Fi systems that I've hacked in the office here that are basically ham radios. So there are all kinds of things that you can do, and you can. But I love this chart because you can see who is where, who has what, and this is a result of international agreements. All right, so let me let y'all ask Pat questions that you have. I thought, John, I thought I saw you raise your hand. Were you? Oh, okay, okay. Any other questions? Oh, here you
Aaron.
go.
I have another question. What have you found are like the biggest limitations with radio?
The biggest limitations?
Yeah, like, is it distance or technology, or like what is the biggest factor that has stopped you from doing like what? Or I guess just like what's the hardest thing to get over to like be able to connect with what you want?
Okay, one of the things is that I want to reach around the world. That's my goal. And through Echolink, I can do that. But luckily, sometimes I just want to do it through a handheld or a microphone, which requires power both in the instrument and what goes through the instrument and on the instrument. Sometimes it is expensive. I mean, this is not, as you go up and through, it does get expensive, which is why I'm so glad that there are ham swaps that happen more digitally. It usually there's still now ham fests that you can actually go to physically and look at, people will swap their older radios, or unfortunately, some folks become silent keys, which means they pass away. And, there's a household or there's a full shack of stuff that the family may want to get rid of, but it still works. So I guess the limitation is really not so much distance and time because they can be overcome, but it's the equipment to get it done with at times for me. And for other people, it's just like, hey, sky's the limit. Like my Elmer Mike, if there, whatever he has money, he's married and has kids. Whatever money he has otherwise goes to equipment. His birthday, equipment. The holidays, equipment. He does not care. As long as he could do that, that's fine. But that's where he is. And, it really is really about equipment. But I've been, the article that referred to I'm Speaking Women and Amateur Radio, I was trying to get more participation, couldn't. That I, for whatever reason, maybe because it was February and March and it just didn't work out. But one person had an HF radio that they weren't using and they gave it to me. And it was an Icon, which is like the Cadillac, a Cadillac of HS radios. It's like but that's what you do. I talked about learning Morse code earlier. And I told you that there were two people that were really after me, and I got a package from Canada. And it was a Raspberry Pi learning kit. And I said, why did you send this? You need to start. Another person sent me a key from Missouri. You need to learn. So it's always ways around it, but overall, it really is can be expense for what you want to do, but it doesn't have to stop you at all.
Yeah, I would just add to that. I think that's good. That's good response. I would just add to that. And I really like what you're saying about folks sharing and giving things. I've got a bunch of things over here in my Radio Shack that people have given me. Just a real quick story. Was interested in a particular type of paddle for Morse code that was vertical instead of that was, I guess you could say, horizontal instead of vertical. And I was admiring this guy's key. This person made keys, had his own, I think they call them CNC machines, where he milled out the metal and all that kind of stuff. And I just said, oh, that's a cool key. It looks really good. And we were chatting back and forth. Actually, I think it may have been on Echolink. No, I don't think it was Echolink. It was on the web. It was email. And I said, oh, that looks really great. And he was like, oh, if you want one, I'll send you one. And I didn't take it seriously. Actually, I was like, okay, cool, And then I'd say probably about a month later, I got a package. And he's in the Netherlands. So apparently for postage to work between the two countries, there has to be the package of a certain size has to have a certain weight. So the key by itself was not heavy enough and not the right size enough. So he put in a bunch of books that were all in all in some language. I think one was in German. They're all in different languages.
Dutch.
But they were literally Dutch. Ballast. They were literally ballast for the key. And inside there was a key, and I sent him an email. Thank you so much. You didn't have to do this. How much do I owe you? He's like, don't insult me. Enjoy the key. Just use it. That's all. So I still have it on my desk. So that's an important point. As to the difficulty of communicating, that's part of the fun. So one of the things that I've got a friend not too far from here who's interested in what is called QRP, which we'll talk about later, but it's basically using low power. And so this person looks at the reports of solar weather, which we're also going to talk about, and what's happening with the Earth's magnetic field, and that determines how well signals can go across the Earth or around the Earth or get diffracted or reflected. And so this person looks at all this data, and it's sort of like golf. It's like measuring the wind and that kind of thing, and since seeing which way it's going to go, and they figure out the best times to get on the air and how to point their antenna so they could take 5 watts and work Japan from Washington, D.C. or something like that, and occasionally you get surprises. One of the things about ham radio is that there are a lot of stories. People tell a lot of stories, and there's always a story about somebody who worked someone in some foreign country, and they had a QSO and it worked out really well, and then they walked outside and they saw their antenna had fallen out of the tree and it was on the ground. And they're like, how did that happen? So there's a lot of part of the fun is the difficulty, as trying to figure out, oh man, I really want to work this person in Italy. How can I tune my antenna to do that? Or what time of the night is the best to work Italy? And I think I've shared before, and I won't take up too much more of the time. We're starting to run out of it. But I have a thing called a ham clock. And the ham clock actually shows the minimal frequencies that you could use. And I'll show it at another time, but I usually keep it up just before a talk because it helps me keep track of time. I won't, it requires more explanation than we've got time right now, but it shows what the best frequencies are to work different parts of the world. And you can use the calculations that are made to decide, I'm going to go to 40 meters, for example, at night. And that way I can work, I think I can work most of Europe and the west coast of Africa that way, and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of the difficulty part, Aaron, is the is the exciting part for some people. That's how can I do this, and that kind of thing.
Which is very true. How do I get to do this?
Right.
How do I do it?
How do I do it?
How do I do it? Okay, I don't have the equipment. How do I do it?
Exactly.
It's solving the puzzle.
Solving a puzzle. And occasionally there's surprises. I've been playing around with digital communication on HF, and there was a person basically calling CQ. CQ means I'm here. Can you talk? There's someone around to talk to me. And I reached a person in, I think I got someone in Italy actually. And I didn't expect them to come back to my call. They were calling CQ saying I'm available. I responded to their call, and honestly, I was sort of fooling around the office. I didn't expect them to respond, but they did. And so now I have to engage in the exchange, and I think that's one of the farthest contacts I've ever made.
Nice.
I didn't expect that would happen. I didn't think it would work. But the bands, you'll hear hams talk about band openings and stuff like that. There are all kinds of fancy things like temperature inversions and all kinds of freaky things that happen to the Earth's magnetic field that enable stuff. You'll learn in the class, and I don't want to take up too much time, but you learn in a class at the VHF and UHF ranges, the contacts tend to be line of sight. But occasionally we have freaky things happening with the Earth's magnetic field, where you can be in Washington, D.C., and you can hear people in Hawaii talking on 2 meters, which you're, quote, not supposed to be able to do. But it happens every now and then, and it's cool. Sometimes it interferes with local communications, but it's cool to sit there and actually work someone in Hawaii on 2 meters. And then what happens is, and you'll learn about this too, you send out a confirmation, a QSL card. And so that's
Yes.
one of those hot things, right? You get, if I make a contact in Hawaii from Washington, D.C. on 2 meters, you know I want a card for that. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That card's gonna
And
go right up here on the wall in a
and I
frame.
well, before we
Go
sign
ahead.
off, I'd like to make an offer
Oh,
to
please.
anyone who would like my QSL card. And it'll be this date and it'll reflect this. Just you can email me. You got my bio and things. You can email me and I will be more with your address and I'll be more than happy to send it to you
Oh, that's
as a
very kind.
souvenir. And also 2 more things, because I know we're at the top of the hour. You'll hear a lot of acronyms, but 2 for you all would be GOTA and GI. GOTA is get on the air. You could be nervous, you could be upset, you could be whatever, like, I don't know how to do it. Get on the air, because by and large, there's somebody there that will welcome you, that will like wonderful, just like greatness. And it's like, I did it, and just keep doing it. That's, getting on the air. And also GIs, get involved. So whatever you want to do with ham radio, make sure you are involved somehow. And I became a volunteer examiner basically because I wanted to give back. I wanted to be there when people take their exam. I know what it was to be in that seat. So I'm just cheering them on and, getting, obviously quietly, because they have to take their exam. But it's nice so that they know that someone has been there, they understand, and they're just so thrilled. They're so thrilled when they pass, and if things go the other way, have suggestions for them to make sure that they do. So, Mr. Alexander, it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much, everybody. So I'll hand it back to you.
All right, thank you so much. If it's okay with you, Pat, I'm gonna put your email in the chat here,
Absolutely.
your Gmail. Okay, and
Yes.
so just make sure, folks, if you're interested,
Well,
go ahead.
just my other one.
The other one?
I have another one. I'll put it in there.
Oh,
I
cool.
think I'll put it in there. I mean, that's mine too, but since
You
we're
have a
radio
preferred one.
talking, I do have a preferred one.
All right, so she's gonna put up the preferred address. And you get, this is kind of cool, folks. You're gonna get your first QSL card. That's great. So,
Okay, that's it.
and while she's typing, there it is. Perfect. Okay, so that's your ham call sign.
Yes.
That's good. That's great. That's perfect. Wow, Pat, the hour went really fast. Well, what do you expect? 2 hams, you know what I mean?
Really?
we could be here until 2 a.m. I mean, it's
Very easily.
easily. So I really, really appreciate you taking time out of your busy life to talk with talk with us. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. You'll be hearing from us as we go forward and get our act together. This is really exciting. I'd love to have you back, and
I would love to come back.
excellent. So we'll see how we can make that happen for the next cohort.
Okay.
You all have a contact information. Please reach out. That's a great offer.
And absolutely reach out, not only for that, but if you have any questions like, oh, I forgot she was on here, or I forgot, please reach out.
Oh, that's great and gracious. I really, really thank you. I really appreciate it. Many thanks.
Right.
Well, with that, unless anyone has anything that they want to address right now, I'm going to close the meeting with our thanks again, and everyone take care, and we'll be talking, actually, just a quick reminder, we're going to have another speaker. It'll be Danielle from the National Radio Astronomy Observatory. She'll be talking about cohort building next week. On Monday, we will not meet because it's MLK Day, and that's the day to do service in your community, right? So that's it, folks. Have a great rest of your evening and take good care. And thanks again, Pat. I really appreciate your time.
You're very welcome. Thank you all. Take care.
Goodbye.
Bye now.